All right, we are back on our latest Bull session alongside Chad Conine and John Werner. I am Bryce Cherry. Gentlemen, we were able to have lunch today. That was nice.
Well,
Bryce, good to see you guys.
I don't get out a whole lot. I'm out here in the sticks, kind of living the hillbilly life, and I appreciate y'all inviting me. That was a risk, me in a restaurant.
Well, I'm glad that you are venturing outside.
Thank you.
So Chad, we had some big coaching news earlier this week. Midway found its guy.
It's been a busy week. In fact, even today, there's a lot of sports news popping out there in the sports universe. But I started to get a strong suspicion on Sunday that Midway had, that Midway was going to hire Shane Anderson from Connolly. And the question to me all along was, how difficult was it going to be for Shane to leave Connolly, where he was a graduate, versus, the opportunity that he probably saw over there at Midway. And clearly he thought it was, a shot he wanted to take. And I think you'll agree, and John as well, at least from the standpoint of when we're trying to do our high school previews each week, Shane Anderson's a name you like to have on your list because he'll answer the phone or he'll call you right back. He'll give you good stuff to work with, and kind of shoot you straight. Would you guys follow me on that point?
Yeah, he's definitely one of the coaches I enjoy working with the most at the high school level here. I remember last year during all the COVID stuff, he made sure me and Rod had passes out there. I mean, it's not like we just came up there and asked to get in. He made sure ahead of time. And even like when I went over to interview him at school, they had some pretty strict rules at the start. He said, okay, I'll get a pass for you. I mean, that to me, that's kind of taking the extra step.
We certainly love coaches who are accessible, who will work with us as we try to, publicize their programs and their players. And Shane does a great job of that. I think he's just a really solid all-around coach. I said on the radio earlier this week that it's weird, but I think you could classify Shane as both a Conley guy and a Midway guy. I mean, he's a Conley guy in that, he went to school at Conley. Apparently, even his parents were Conley grads, and did a good job of building, his alma mater up, especially these last couple of seasons. They've really, I think, ascended, to a level where they're up there in the top 10 in the state, in 4A. But as far as him being a Midway guy, I mean, he worked for both Kent Bechtel and Terry Gamble, two very successful football coaches at Midway. I think he's going to do a good job. Full disclosure, I have a son in the Midway football program. He'll probably be JV this fall. We'll see. He's a junior. But I'm excited for Cooper to get the chance to, be coached by Shane. I think it's a good hire. And Chad, you referenced, other news kind of circulating. The latest, obviously, there being Shane adding another former Central Texas coach to his staff in Tommy Allison. That's a pretty good hire.
Yeah, and I'd just like to point out, I have a couple of points to make. One, I wanted to point out that, all the Twitter investigative reporters out there, they had the news, they put the news out there, all the Twitter reporters, but we were able to go
the twits deeper on that. Can we just call them the twits?
Yeah, that's fine. But we were able to go a little bit deeper and also found out Lenoy Jones has been promoted to defensive coordinator over there, along with co-defensive coordinator that Coach Anderson's bringing over, that was on his staff at Connolly. Yeah, Ezra Martinez is the coach. No, my other point though is that in the movie Ocean's 13, when they're talking about the betrayal that happens in the movie, they're all baffled because this guy shook Sinatra's hand, you know?
Right.
That was the thing. You shook Sinatra's hand, right?
Right.
Well, at Midway, the old school reference is, hey, you coached with Kent Bechtel.
Yeah.
You know?
That's pretty good. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yep,
So
yep.
yeah, you can't screw it up if you're one of Bechtel's guys. I mean, you're Midway.
Did
Right.
they ever call Kent chairman of the board?
That's what I usually called him.
Okay.
God bless Kent Bechtel. We loved him. So, Chad, I want to ask you this as John is going to take some call-in viewers.
Sorry about that.
It's a very interesting time in local Central Texas high school football. We've got our three biggest high schools all breaking in new coaches this year in Midway, Waco High, and University. Do you make anything of that? Is that coincidental, or is there maybe more turnover than ever these days?
I think it's a lot coincidence. Particularly with the university situation, Rodney Smith moving over from being university's head coach to moving into the athletic administration as associate AD there. So I don't think that has anything to do with any factors. Now, you could say that playing Duncanville and DeSoto and Cedar Hill were pretty heavy on Midway and Waco High last season, although I think it would be kind of reactionary to make that case. I think even playing in that district, like Coach Anderson has said, he wants to go in there and show that they can be tough and compete. And I think that's the mindset that you have to have. And so I think you moved on for different reasons. I think maybe being in that district kind of exposed maybe some things within the program, but just the fact that the program needs to be, I don't know, on more consistent ground maybe. And then with Waco High, Kwame was having a hard time getting up and flying. And so, again, when you get in really tough games and tough situations like they were in, playing the best of the best in 6A, things are going to get kind of raw in a hurry, I guess, is maybe the fair way to say it.
I tend to agree with you that I feel like it is mostly coincidental. I have to go back and look. I haven't done my research on this. I actually want to explore this a little further. Maybe we'll talk about it in a future podcast or something. But there may have been a season that first year that Terry Gamble arrived where the three of those schools were breaking in new coaches. That may have been the year that Matt Carroll started at University and Waco High. Yeah, or Herbst or the coach that preceded Herbst. I don't remember. There could have been another year like this. I have to go back and look. But
I know my timeline is that my first go around at the Trib ended the same year Bechtel's time at Midway did, which was 2009 football season. Gotcha. So Midway would have had a new coach in 2010, which I think Herbst might have been another year later. But.
Well, anyway, I do feel like that while it may be coincidental that those three schools are breaking in new coaches, there's always a lot of turnover in the coaching business. I mean, that is true any year. But I feel like what we are seeing maybe more often is some late moves in the process. Usually January, February is kind of the hot time for high school coaches moving on. The season's over and then they start looking at other positions. It's rare and weird to be hiring a coach in June because, the season is literally right around the corner.
Yeah, and it's the domino effect, though. Once one happens, you're going to have a bunch happen. And
right.
We've had it here locally.
And now Connolly is open, right?
Right. When you really think about this spring and coming off, opening back up from the pandemic and coming out of what was a different kind of weird, very weird sports year. And not only in high school football, but just across the board, there's been coaching changes that have happened that you wouldn't have expected, that you didn't, in my case, that you didn't want to see happen, that happened anyway. You know, talking about Chris Beard, you know, hightailing it to Texas, where he obviously wanted to be. And then, you know, with Coach Mulkey, quote unquote, going home to LSU for whatever reason that happened. And now, you know, you have these high school coaches. And then just today, you know, Rick Carlisle pieces out with the Mavericks, you know. So I don't know if it's the pandemic effect. It just, you know, shakes up where people want to be or get a fresh start or what.
Let's explore that a little further. That's a good segue. I teed that up for you, I guess, Chad. John, Chad brings up Chris Beard. He brings up Kim Mulkey. That's a good segue to college basketball. You had a story this week in the paper today, actually, as we film this podcast, about the transfer portal in college basketball, currently sitting at over 1,700. Scott Drew had a quote in your piece that said, he's surprised it wasn't over 2,000. There's a lot of guys changing addresses, changing zip codes. And to me, this is just the start of the trend, really, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, Baylor's national championship team, it was built with veterans. On that team, all 5 Baylor starters had been there at least 3 years. Their top 3 players off the bench had been there at least 2.
Probably not coincidence.
Right, not a coincidence. You're not going to see that much anymore. I mean, with guys just transferring like crazy. And, you know, for some, it's going to work out. And, you know, that might be a coach or a different system that fits them better. But for a lot of them, they were probably just as well off staying where they were. You know, they're probably just thinking the grass is a little greener somewhere else, and which is not always the case. But yeah, it will be interesting. I mean, like TCU brought in seven new guys. Texas has at least 6. Texas Tech has 6 4-year college transfers. I think Iowa State has about 6. Baylor is one of the more stable teams, only brought in 2. So, and that's with 4 starters being gone from last year's team. So yeah, it's going to be, you'll definitely need a roster next year to check out the teams.
Now, you mentioned that, you know, that it might be the norm, but I actually think this is more kind of a perfect storm for transfers, because a certain percentage of those transfers are guys that were seniors last year that get one more lap and just choose to take that somewhere else,
right?
Which is the case with Bryson Williams, the transfer from UTEP to Texas Tech, and I'm sure, you know, many across the board. Plus, you know, just kind of lifting all restrictions in terms of transferring at this point because of the you know, difficulties athletes had to deal with COVID-19 and the season that was. And then, but the other thing is, I think, you know, guys on everybody's roster that in terms of minutes were 8 or 9, I say guys and ladies that were like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in minutes. All those people got to be thinking, am I going to get more minutes here next season, or my chance to play more, is that somewhere else?
So I think, like a lot of things, there are going to be pros and cons to this, good and bad. I had a column about the transfer portal, I don't know, a month or 2 ago, and talked about, you know, college free agency is here, you know, deal with it. You know, it's not, you can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. But so there are going to be some, you know, negative elements to that. I feel like back in the 80s and 90s, a really hot time for college basketball, we were able to get to know players because they were with those programs longer. You hated Christian Laettner, you know, because he was there forever and they were good. And, you know, that you built up this sort of relationship with these guys. and then the pro side of it, the good side of it, I guess, is you are able to fill some roster spots with some proven commodities. I mean, going out and getting guys that are averaging 19, 20 points a game in college, whereas maybe a recruit is a little bit more of a mystery. I look at it as almost the Zoom analogy. So we're sitting here on Zoom, and it's a convenient thing. It's nice to be sitting here in our various homes and able to do this. And yet, I think we would also all agree that during COVID, we all got a little tired of Zoom, doing eight jillion of them and not being in person. And I know when Baylor went back to in-person interviews that I was excited because it was like, oh yeah, this is the way it's supposed to work. So, there's good and there's bad.
Did y'all realize, I pointed this out to John yesterday, but including the 60-man rosters, there are 1,900 NFL players. So basically what you have the equivalent of is if every NFL player switched teams.
That's pretty amazing.
Right.
That's pretty amazing. And like Drew said, it's not over yet. So they'll probably get to that 1,900 number. All right, let's stick with college basketball for a second. We had some, breaking news today that Jared-Butler was named Big 12 Sports Person of the Year. What all does that award encompass again, Johnny?
Yeah, I'm on that panel. It's a 10-member media panel. And obviously they're on court, on field performance, academics, and also community service. And Jared was a slam dunk in all those areas. All-American, first team All-American guard for a national championship team. He was the Big 12 men's basketball scholar athlete of the year. He graduated in 3 years with a degree in business management. And last summer, he was a speaker at some racial unity rallies at Baylor. He was
kind of the face for that, really, at Baylor.
Yes, exactly. And let's see, he served as a student representative on an NCAA committee. Plus, he taught Sunday school.
And I am all in for Sunday school teachers.
Right. So, I mean, I looked at every school in the Big 12 nominates somebody. I looked through everybody and I thought, wow, this isn't even close. He is so far ahead of everybody else. And he was the obvious pick.
That's awesome that he teaches Sunday school. I didn't know that. And I'm surprised that, you guys haven't made me shed my Sunday school teacher position because
we're such bad influences.
Well, no, just because a few of my podcast after dark jokes.
Exactly.
Anyway. Hey, Bryce, you are on probation.
Okay.
I don't know if I told you that.
Well, I'm just glad that Jared-Butler's getting some recognition. He's really been under the radar.
Oh, shut up. That is so sassy.
It should have been Mac McClung. Okay.
I think Jared
Mac McClung wasn't Tech's nominee, but anyway.
I think Jared is also going to be a very good pro. I thought it was wise that he came back to school, and he's going to make some money, and I think he's going to be a pretty good pro. He expanded his game over this past year, so
he's going to be a big time athletic director someday too.
Oh, cool.
Count on that.
Yeah, neat. All right. One other thing I wanted to talk about was obviously the Olympics are coming up. Cross our fingers, I guess, that'll happen. The Olympic trials are starting right now. The swimming has been going on this week, and the track and field trials will start tomorrow, Friday. A lot of Baylor ex-athletes, even a few current or just recently wrapped up, Baylor performers will be in that mix. And I think several of them, I'll have a story on it, but I think several of them will have a chance to do very, very well. Starting with Trayvon-Bromell. Trayvon, of course, competed in Rio in the 100 and in the sprint relay. He, there's been so much expectation for Trayvon just because he's still the fastest teenager ever. I mean, he's not a teenager anymore. He's 25, but as far as guys who were teenagers and the times that they recorded, he's the fastest on record. Right now, and he's dealt with a lot of injuries these last couple of years, but earlier this year, just a few weeks back, he ran 9.77. So to me, he's rounding back into form. That's the 7th fastest time in history. So I think he has a chance to do well this year. He was 8th in Rio, and then he the U.S. sprint relay team, which he was on, was supposed to get a bronze, and there was an illegal exchange, and so he didn't get that medal either. So he's still chasing that first Olympic medal, but I think he gets it this year. So keep an eye on Trayvon-Bromell. And then a couple others I'll just throw out there. Wil-London, the former Waco High and Baylor track quarter miler. He's on an upward trajectory. Still a lot of tough competition in the 400 in the United States. Really every event, track and field is loaded. And then Casey Lightfoot, who would have competed and probably won another national championship in this outdoor season. He won one in the indoor season for Baylor this year as a 3rd-year sophomore. And he is absolutely one of the best pole vaulters in the world. He competed in 1 or 2 meets during the outdoor season, and then he decided to turn pro and kind of get ready for the trials. So I think he's going to be one to watch. Keep an eye on Casey Lightfoot. He's a really good kid. So yeah. Any thoughts on that, track and field experts?
I was just, as you were saying that, I was looking up to see if Divine Oduduru has a shot at making his respective Olympic team. So, that's one I've got my eye out for.
Well, and I'll also mention another former Big 12 school person. There's a girl at A&M. I hope I pronounce her name right, but athing-mu. She is absolutely incredible. She was a freshman at A&M this year. I saw her run at the Michael Johnson meet and run 157 in the 800. If you guys don't know, that is really, really fast. It was a NCAA record. Let's just put it like this. Baylor's girl, Aaliyah Williams, who won a national title in the 800 in the indoor season, ran 2 flat. It was a Baylor school record. She was 3 seconds behind this A&M girl who didn't run the 800 at the NCAA outdoor meet. She ran the 400, and she set an NCAA record in winning. So athing-mu is her name. She's going to be a thing to watch. So anyway, good stuff, guys. We're about to go on vacation. John and I, Chad has some time coming up as well. So this may be our last one for a while.
I'm going to do Zoom next week when I just talk to myself.
I'll look forward to that, Chad.
You can do
maybe I'll take the meeting, the podcast to the 19th hole at Bear Ridge and do it from there.
That'll be entertaining.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds good. All right, thanks, guys.
See you guys.
All right.